Hello, and welcome to 30 Minutes. I'm Patty Stalker. The Parish Center for the Arts is a nonprofit, all-volunteer-run organization located in bucolic Westward, Massachusetts. It's dedicated to bringing performing arts to the area in a charming and historic setting. Through workshops and special events, art shows, and open mic nights, theater, comedy, dance, and musical performances, the PCA's mission is to stimulate the community and promote an appreciation to all that is art. Please join me for the next half hour as I sit down with the president of the PCA's Board of Directors, Cheryl Serpe. Cheryl will give us the history of the PCA, its vision and mission, and fill us all in on what this special little jewel has to offer. So please stick around. It's 30 minutes. Hi, Cheryl. Thank you so much for joining us today. So you're the president of the Board of Directors for the Parish Center for the Arts in Westward.
Yes.
And so what exactly is the PCA?
The PCA, you gave a great introduction to it. It's a nonprofit center for the arts with the mission to provide anything that's related to the arts, whether it's visual arts, performing arts, classes, to the people of Westford and surrounding communities.
When did the PCA actually come into being? How long has it been around in Westford?
We're in our 14th season now. I would say 1999 was the actual official formation of the PCA. The building itself was owned by the First Parish Church, which is across the town common.
Right, the
beautiful
big,
white
beautiful
church
white church, yes.
And in 1998, the First Parish Church had completed a very large renovation in addition to their building on their side of the common, and added a function hall. And at that point, because they owned the PCA building at 10 Lincoln Street, they no longer had a need for that building. Previously, it had served as their function hall, where they cooked their food for Strawberry Festival, where they had the pancake breakfast.
Right.
And they found themselves owning a piece of real estate on the town common that they really didn't
need
to support. And the history of the building's rather interesting. You wonder why there's two church buildings on the town common.
Right.
Back in the 1800s, I think it was around 1828, 1829, a group splintered off from the First Parish Church. They had a disagreement in doctrine.
Wow.
And it became the Union Congregational Church. So that group in 1829 built the building that is now the Parish Center for the Arts.
Sort of in your face, right across the street, right?
Right. I
Right
don't know the
common.
details of what their disagreements were.
Right.
And that schism lasted for until 1955.
Wow.
Then they joined back up together.
Wow.
And that's when the First Parish Church became the owner of two buildings.
Wow. It's a beautiful building. Now, at the time when they decided to sell it, were there a lot of people clamoring for it? I mean, who actually...
What I understand, there was interest in private parties purchasing it and renovating it into a home. I think a number of different people looked at it because anybody who's interested in historic preservation had an interest in the building. It needed a lot of work, though, at the time. The system state, your electrical and plumbing and kitchen were fairly dated and not up to code to do for any sort of public way. The fear of people who were historically minded in town was that the building could be changed or it could have been torn down. And it's a beautiful building. It's been here since the early 1800s, so there were a number of people who were involved with the Historical Society who felt very strongly that the building should be preserved. And at the same time, some of these same people also loved the arts and felt like Westford had no place for the performing arts. there were places to take classes.
Right.
Rodenbush
The
always
Rodenbush.
served a purpose,
Yes.
and a lot of school spaces open after hours for children to do things. But we had Westward Academy had added, when they did their audition,
Right.
did a very great,
Yeah, that's a beautiful theater
performing
arts. Yeah,
theater.
it really is.
But we didn't have any small stage places that were available consistently.
So the Historical Society ended up purchasing the building from the parish.
That's right.
Okay.
They worked out a negotiation of a price of $160,000.
Wow.
And the Historical Society fronted $50,000 as the down payment for
Wow.
the building. And then the First Parish Church gave a 1-year interest-free
Wow,
mortgage of
that's nice.
$110,000. So that's when a steering committee was formed and the fundraising took off like gangbusters. Our first president, Lizette Greaves, headed up that group and helped raise private funds to pay the mortgage. And big celebration on New Year's Eve,
To kick it off?
1999, the mortgage was paid off.
Wow.
And they rang the bell for the first time in the steeple.
Oh,
It is a working
nice.
bell up there.
Yeah, that's cool. Now, did that also kick off the actual Parish Center for the Arts as a performing
At
arts
the same
center?
time, right. The
Okay.
steering committee worked on the mission for the Parish Center for the Arts, worked on the name, which it has been at times confusing. People, even from outside, will be in touch with performers, and they may think it's a church.
They
because
think
we've
it's
got
a
the word
church
parish in it.
function, absolutely. This female comedian was joking around about where's the priest and we're at a
right.
church in Westford.
We
and
still have
so-
stained glass in there. It's still very church feeling.
Yeah, it's a beautiful building though. But
Quite often, that's pretty much when we have stand-up comedians, there's always going to be one who has some church joke.
Absolutely.
But sometimes the musicians who come in do, too.
Sure. So, so the committee was formed then, and how long have you been involved? And
I've
when
been
did you
involved
become president? Oh, you said the whole 14
I've been
years
involved
now.
for 14 years. In the early years, mainly because of my friend Lizette, I was invited to come to a programming committee meeting. We used to have an actual committee that oversaw programming,
Okay.
because it was a new center for the arts, and there were all kinds of ideas being thrown around about what sorts of things could be in there. So we needed a group to kind of steer what we were doing for
Sort of the
our
mission.
ongoing, to follow the mission of the center.
Right.
And it's always been a work in progress. The arts are.
Right,
There's
exactly,
always something
ever-changing,
new.
sure.
And so the programming committee oversaw what have become some of the regular ongoing programs and got those off the ground. But it was just a great, you'd say, oh, we've got a Saturday night open, let's do comedy.
Right.
So I would go out and we'd preview various acts and bring
Bring
them
'em on in.
and then work together with some of the other organizations who were involved in the performing arts as well.
When you say so you no longer have the programming committee. So if someone had an idea, or someone wanted to, bring a group in, or bring a band wanted to play there, say,
Right.
How did they go about doing that?
Typically, we get the request either by phone. We have a part-time manager.
Okay.
That's the only paid position we have out of our 200.
I want to get into that about the volunteer. Okay.
So they can either call and leave a voicemail, or
Right.
typically the inquiries come through by way of email.
Right.
Hi, I do, I've just recorded a CD and I'm interested in playing. So our manager will then funnel that information to the people who are ongoing producers of certain types of events where she thinks it might be the most appropriate
Okay.
group. And we try to serve as an incubator for new ideas. So
Sure.
we'll get someone who's been a regular volunteer at the PCA or a regular producer of an event to do the hand-holding and walk someone through the
Help
steps
the artist.
of putting on a show
Wow.
or bringing in something new and different.
So when you say all volunteer and only one paid position, how are you guys raising money then?
Through several different ways. We raise it through an annual membership drive.
Okay.
Some people always go over and above when on annual membership time and give some very generous donations. We've had a couple private foundations that continue to give money. There is a core group of citizens in Westford who just love the building and love to support Westford-related preservation and activities in their town. We've got a really great town from that perspective.
Yeah, we really do. We're very lucky that way.
And then we actually rent. We rent for private rentals, such as receptions, baby showers, birthdays. We rent to people who teach classes, so that brings in income. During the week, we have yoga classes there.
That's a gorgeous room for yoga.
Art
That sun
drop-in.
coming in, yeah.
It's a beautiful spot. We have a second floor that can be rented separately from our main hall.
Oh, okay.
So the second floor area is a less expensive rental. So if someone wants to teach a class, it's weekdays $25 an hour.
That's affordable for sure.
It is.
Right.
Now, whoever rents is responsible for all their own promotion.
Okay.
We do an annual mailing to all the Westward residents. It's a really great catalog. So if something's already lined up, they can be listed in there. But as far as ongoing, if they change classes or if someone comes in mid-year and wants to offer a class,
They could
we'll put
advertise.
it on our website.
Right.
And we'll put it on our monthly email newsletter. But it's pretty much up to the teacher to draw in their own students for their class.
The ongoing projects that you just mentioned, what are some of them?
For events that we have?
Yeah, for ongoing events, and what are the more popular ones? I remember there was there's a big dance. I know, is it like a square dance type?
It's square dance type. It's called contra dancing.
Yeah, contra dancing.
Change
That's
the
it.
name to barn dance, but
Okay.
it's the same idea. So
Right.
you've got a fiddler, you've got a group, a contra
I always wanted to
group
do
that
it.
plays.
I always chicken out.
It's a lot of fun.
I can't dance.
And that's been one of our long-term ongoing
Right. It's
events.
been for as long as I can remember since I've lived here.
Right. We have, as far as the long-term ongoing things, one of the most exciting ones that I was involved with from the early days because of my children was the Westward Teen Arts Council. One of our early members, Janice Henderson, was a great promoter of youth and the youth having a place to express themselves. It's a non-threatening place.
Right.
So formed a Teen Arts Council that put on open mic nights, rock shows,
Right.
coffee houses, and it was all driven by, and it still is, driven by what these students want to do. And typically it's late middle school, 7th and 8th graders can participate and through high school.
Wow. I heard they're almost hard to
so
get into, though. I mean, it's hard to get a spot there at this point because they're so popular.
They are. I think some
Yeah.
of their open mic nights, they're all filled up.
Right.
And the kids produce them themselves. So they learn how to
Wow.
set up the sound system. They get
Nice.
trained. So the
Yeah.
ones who are trained go early on Friday, set up the sound. They've got their lineup. They run their
Wow.
show. They get their kids to help do the breakdown. It's all with the guidance of several key
Sure.
adults, but what the activities are and how they run is really driven by the kids.
Wow. Who's teaching them that then? How to set all that up? Are they
Again,
other
a
musicians in town or the people that
we
work?
have at
volunteers?
PCA,
Yeah.
that whole sound system. One of our great volunteers, Rick Posh, helped us purchase and helps us maintain our own sound system to
Wow.
use for our own internal events. And he runs a workshop several times a year for
Oh,
the kids,
okay.
so they get certified.
Oh, board
So-
like, to run a sound system. Wow, like mixing and all that?
They're learning.
Wow.
Exactly. And the Teen Arts Council raised enough money to buy their own recording equipment. So the recording equipment is also available to these kids if they want to record their own music.
So it can be anything. They can be in a band. They can do, poetry reading.
Exactly.
Or,
And we
yeah.
also have a Steinway grand piano up there for use. So
Beautiful.
we'll have more classical type nights as well.
Sure.
And the kids run those also. That formation
very
of that group's
popular.
been very popular. It's been a real inspiration to kids in town who don't have the opportunity to get up on stage that one time at Westward Academy for some big talent show night. This is ongoing and a lot less threatening because you're with your peers who like the arts as well.
Right.
My son, from 7th grade on, every little band he was in, you always had a chance to try out stuff because you have a
That's
stage.
so great. Instead of playing in your garage
Exactly.
to a bunch of your buddies, you're actually up there on a real stage in front of a real audience.
Some of these kids have continued on in the performing arts. We just recently read an excerpt from a guy, Brian Detlefs, who's now, he sings, and he's finished college. And he said, I felt like I lived at the PCA.
Yeah.
So that was his second stage, where you could try out things.
Wow.
and-
Well, you know what's great about this is, you have the Boys and Girls Club or the Y for the kids that are playing sports, and that's a haven or a place that they can go and hang out. But there's not always a place for kids in the arts to go.
right.
And like you just said, that this young man felt like he lived there, and he could you know, sort of hone his craft in a, like you said, in a non-threatening way, not just sitting up in his bedroom,
exactly,
you know, or putting it out on YouTube, which seems to be very popular these days, but to actually be in front of other people and get that immediate feedback from an audience, and that's, you know, that's something very special indeed. And it's hard to get up there on stage, so it's to get that fear factor out of the way.
You could see what this room looks like on an open mic night. They pull couches up, they're sitting on the floor in front of the stage, and totally supportive of their peers. So because the kids who go are going because this is what they want to see and participate in. So it's a very nurturing, supportive.
Is it just kids from Westward, or can it be kids from anywhere?
It can be kids from anywhere.
Right.
It's pretty much Westward driven because the center's here in Westward, and the core group of the parents who help are all from Westward.
I was at the New England Music Awards over at UMass Lowell recently, and there was a father there whose daughter and son were in a band, and they were part of, they had won something called a Radar Award, which was like for up-and-coming artists. But he had mentioned the PCA when he had heard that I was from Westford. He's from Drake-it, and he had said, oh, I love that Parish Center for the Arts and the program that they have for teen kids. So it really is known in the area.
Schlep all that equipment in on a Friday night. Following their kids' band around.
So you also have the art project that's every spring. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, another one of our big ongoing events is the Westward Regional Art Event, which is a show for amateurs and professionals and artists of all ages. So from kindergarten up to any age. And we have they're separated into children, young adult, and adult categories, but it's a judged show. And it's a free event for the community. It's probably one of the best things that happens in Westford every spring. In fact, this is the week where we're setting it up.
That's why we're lucky to have you here.
This year we've received 570 pieces of art.
Is it all, you know, paintings and drawings and sculpture and that sort of thing?
Anything that's in the visual arts category. So drawing, sculpture, painting, watercolor or oil or acrylic, sculpture, and it's just a fantastic part of the excitement of the event is just all of these people coming together and seeing their work hanging. Sometimes, you know, as an amateur artist myself, that one piece finally you're so proud of it to have all of your friends and family come and see it hanging, and maybe have a ribbon. So
to go home with something as well. And
we do a great free reception on the Friday night for the awards for the adults and young adults, and then we have a children's reception on Saturday.
And what does that entail for the kids?
The kids all get awards, and there's several awards in every category and every set of grade levels, like K through 2, and then grades 3 and 4, and it's just a beautiful event. The kids are so excited to be up there. Also,
it is a really big deal in town. Oh, nice.
Do a grand artistic centerpiece that's sculptural in nature. So every year, artists who've been involved with the PCA have turned our center table into just this masterpiece work.
Wonderful.
So it's worth going just to see what the centerpiece is going to be.
Absolutely, it changes every year.
About a centerpiece that's 10, 12 feet tall.
Wow.
It's not a vase of flowers.
Right, exactly. It's not what you're going to bring home when you're at the end of the wedding, correct? Now, you have something else that you're featuring that was just recently renovated, and it was sort of you had a big unveiling. Can you tell us about that?
We have just restored a chandelier that was an original part of the building.
From the 1800s? From the
1800s.
Wow.
It's a late 1800s piece.
Wow.
I understand now from the restoration guy, Gary Sweeney, that it's from the East Lake period, which is significant to people who know the decorative arts, which means it would have been made around 1880 to 1890.
Wow.
And it was laying in the basement, discovered by some of the original founding members of our organization, Kathy Lane, our past president, and Leslie Thomas. And it looked like a junk heap down there. You couldn't imagine what it would have looked like or how beautiful it may have been originally.
How big is this thing?
I would say 6 to 8 feet.
Wow.
Maybe off a little.
Yeah, no, I mean I'm just trying to picture it in my head.
And it was originally gas powered. And then at some point when electricity came through to Westford in the early 1900s, they ran those cloth electrical lines down, flipped the pieces of the chandelier downward so the bulbs would illuminate downward. Originally the gas flames would have been
going up.
Up. And in the process, probably broke off parts because the decorative parts didn't work. So
wow.
This gentleman, Gary Sweeney, and his brother Scott at Yankee Craftsman took on the project a year and a half ago.
Where's Yankee Craftsman out of?
They're south of here. They're in the greater Boston area.
Oh, okay.
But they're known nationally for their restoration work, metals restoration and then lighting restoration. So famous people bring giant chandeliers from mansions to them to restore.
Oh, wow.
So this piece became a nearly a year and a half project for him, because first he tried to locate parts that might have been duplicates from other old chandeliers, and basically got to a point where he had to remanufacture some pieces of it. And the real interesting part of it is that it's got a mirrored reflector. When you stand underneath it, if you feel like you're in a kaleidoscope, because it's facets of mirrored glass. And he completely restored that piece.
Does that sort of give an effect?
It does.
As in like coming down?
Yeah. When you asked about fundraising, a project like that, we knew it was going to be expensive to restore. And we had a special fundraiser for that, and it was an art auction where we asked 50 artists who have some affiliation with the PCA to contribute a small piece of art, lined them all up on tables on easels, and that event itself raised $6,000 towards the restoration of the chandelier.
And then, so these artists are promoting their works, and then they're also helping out,
donating back to
the PCA, which has probably helped them and their careers.
Yeah. And this was Kathy Lane's vision, so she's beside herself right now because this is the final project that she had her eye on, and it's been just the greatest thing to get that in.
It's a beautiful building. The outside is gorgeous. I love the paint job that the colors that were chosen. The windows, the stained glass windows, are beautiful.
And that was another restoration job too. All of the stained glass windows in there were original to the building, and they were starting to suffer from the weight and the lead deteriorating in them. So the two main ones that face out to Lincoln Street, we had a master stained glass restorer take them over the summer, 2 summers ago, and completely restore the glass, and then add artistic elements. So now they speak to what the building's function is. We've got a diamond in the middle of each one. One has a grand piano, and the other has the artist palette.
The palette, yeah.
To represent what we do in our building.
That's terrific. So once again, if someone is interested in, say, volunteering or bringing something to the PCA, whether it be, an exhibit or bring a band in or has an idea, what should they do? What should they go about doing?
They can go right to our website, which is www.westford.com/PCA.
Okay.
If they just go to westward.com, there's a link to the PCA.
There is, right, on the Westward website. Is there anything else that's coming up that we should know about, that we should get excited about?
There's always something.
Right.
I would just encourage people to go online, and if you can be part of our email mailing list. So the first of each month, you'll get at a glance what's happening at the PCA that month. So you'll know who the artist of the month is in the gallery. You'll know what shows are coming up. We've got our last blues show of the season is coming up on April 12th with a band called Jumpin' Juba.
Okay.
And our blues and jazz shows are always very popular locally because we set up cabaret style. And it's BYOB and bring your own appetizers.
I was just, that triggered in my head. I wanted to bring that up to people. You can do a little fondue if you like. I've seen people with fondue and bottles of wine, and
So a number of the musical type shows or the comedy shows are of that nature, and we typically sell out for those.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it is. I know sometimes it's really hard to get into some of those events, but if you plan ahead, and it's great for a girls' night out or an intimate date.
Yeah.
It really is a wonderful venue, and it's so terrific that it was brought here to Westford. I applaud you. Now, since you've been here, you're going to come on again, I hope, and you can help me promote some of the things that are going on here. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Cheryl Serpe, the president of the board of directors of the Parish Center for the Arts.
Thanks, Patty.
Thank you.
It's great to be here.